Prophet Muhammad explains stuff. So what do we see when we look at Islam and we look at the words of Prophet Muhammad? Do we see divine wisdom? Do we see that Prophet Muhammad coming with things that he could not have known and that God must have told him? Do we see some sort of, external information that he could not have had in his life coming to him, which would be a confirmation that he spoke to God? Or do we see that he's making up stuff as he goes along? Let's take a look and see. First example is Prophet Muhammad, I believe this was in Medina. He heard some noise, and the companions, the people were actually pollinating the date palms. And this is a method they had where they manually cross-pollinate. They take the seeds and they put it in the plant to make it grow better, right? Rather than waiting for nature to do its own thing. And he said, what is this noise? And by the way, this is quoted in Ibn Majah and it's Sahih. They said, palm trees that are being pollinated. He said, if they did not do that, it would be better. So they did not pollinate them that year, and the dates did not mature properly. So he gave them advice. He said, don't do this, and it'll be better. They did what he said, and guess what? It blew up. The dates didn't come. Now he's in trouble. What should he do? What should he say? Because Allah is talking to him, right? How is he going to explain this one? So they mentioned to the Prophet, and he said, if it's one of the matters of your religion, then refer to me. And if it's one of your matters, then you guys know best, right? And again, this is quoted in Ibn Majah. Now, the interesting thing is, he actually messed up here. He gave them advice about, plants, and it was wrong advice, right? And what are the possibilities? Now, all of these hadith I'm going to mention to you, minus the Quran, but let's just say the hadith. There's basically two possibilities. One possibility is he didn't know what he was doing. He didn't understand. He is a typical person from that era who would have understood, medicine, science, nature, cosmology, according to the basic understanding of the time in 7th century Arabia in the middle of the desert. I mean, what did they know back then? Not that much, right? They were in awe about the universe, about the cosmos, about the stars, and all those things, but they didn't understand it very well, right? So what do we see? That's one possibility. The other possibility is the hadith is fabricated and he never said that. And if that's the case, then what other hadith are fabricated that are known to be sahih or authentic? So either you have to say the hadith is false or Prophet Muhammad is wrong. It has to be one of the two, right? Now, another good example of this is there's another hadith where Prophet said, he's explaining to his companions, why does meat rot? He said, if it wasn't for the Israelites, Bani Israel, meat would not decay. And if it was not for Eve, Hawa, the first woman, wives would never betray their husbands. And this is Bukhari and Muslim, the two most authentic hadith collections for Sunni Muslims, the gold standard. Now the interesting thing is, we know why meat rots. It rots because of bacteria, right? And we know that it has nothing to do with Bani Israel. Meat has always rotted because of invisible little tiny creatures. They go on the meat and they cause it to decompose. Of course, they didn't know that back then. I mean, how would they know that in the 7th century? They could not have known that. Now again, we're faced with two possibilities. One is, Prophet Muhammad was a man of his time. He didn't know what he was doing. He's making up stuff as he goes along. Or two, the hadith is fabricated, and maybe he did know about bacteria. Which one do you think? I personally think number one. He was wrong. Now here's another one. It was a time of sunset. Sun is going down, beautiful sight. Prophet Muhammad decides to volunteer some information, and he asks his companions. I'm gonna read the story narrated by Abu Dhar, and this is in Bukhari. Once I was with the Prophet in the mosque at a time of sunset. The Prophet said, "O Abu Dhar, do you know where the sun sets?" I replied, "Allah and His Apostle know best." He said, "It goes and prostrates beneath Allah's throne." And then Prophet Muhammad, he read from the Holy Quran, and that is, "And the sun runs on its fixed course to a term decreed, and that is the decree of Almighty, the All-Knowing," chapter 36, verse 38. So here we find Prophet Muhammad is again explaining cosmology and the nature of the universe according to what Allah has told him. You just imagine the sun, the beautiful sun setting. It's going down, it's going below the horizon, and it's disappearing, and it's night. You're in the middle of the desert. Everyone wonders, where does the sun go? Of course, Prophet Muhammad comes to the rescue and tells them, it's going beneath Allah's throne. Now, we know the sun's not going anywhere. The sun is in the sky. It's still in the same spot. It's actually the earth that's turning. When we say sunset, this is a use of a language that continued to this day, but that's not what's happening. The sun is not setting, the earth is spinning. Now when Prophet Muhammad said it's going beneath Allah's throne, that's a pretty good explanation for the 7th century because it's disappearing. I mean, where else did it go? I had to go somewhere. I mean, it was there and now it's gone. Like, was he just making up stuff as he went along? It goes beneath Allah's throne. It's going beneath Allah's throne. Interesting, isn't it? Just think about, what does that mean? Another example, what are eclipses? Prophet Muhammad here, again, will come to the rescue and explain to us. We were with the Prophet when the sun became eclipsed. He got up and went to the masjid, dragging his garment in haste. He was like in a rush, right? The people stood with him and he prayed 2 rakats as they usually prayed. When the eclipse ended, he addressed us and said, the sun and moon are 2 signs of Allah, with which he strikes fear into his slaves. And this is in Nasai. Now the interesting thing is, we actually have a schedule of eclipses. We know when the sun is eclipsing. We can predict it. And we can even go back and see in his life when it predicted. Is Allah trying to scare us with a schedule of when the sun and the moon are aligned? Is he trying to scare us now that we know that that's what's happening? Just imagine you're living in the desert. The sun goes black. That's pretty scary, isn't it? What does that mean? The sun is going black. Allah is giving us a message to fear him. Or maybe it's just aligning the planets and the sun and the moon. I don't know. You tell me. Prophet Muhammad said, it's a sign with which he strikes fear into his people. Why does a child look like a mother or a father? You must wonder that. How come sometimes a kid looks like the mom, sometimes looks like a dad? There's a good explanation for that too. Prophet Muhammad is going to tell us. It depends who has an orgasm first. And this is in Bukhari. And if a man's discharge preceded that of the woman, then the child will resemble the father. And if the woman's discharge preceded that of the man, then the child resembles the mother. And this is in Bukhari. Prophet Muhammad, you heard it first from him. It's not about genetics. It's about who has an orgasm first. Whose liquid comes first, the man or the woman? Again, does Prophet Muhammad seem to understand science here? Can we trust him? Can we trust the hadith collections? If we trust the hadith collections, can we trust the Prophet? That he's receiving information from Allah? I don't know. And on top of that, okay, wait, before I get to that, one more last one. What are shooting stars? You look in the sky, again, put yourself in this perspective. Beautiful shooting star. What does it mean? Apparently, the weapons used to shoot the devils. The devils, they go up to the space. Well, it's not space back then. Go up to the firmament, and they wanna hear what Allah is decreeing up there. You know, Allah is up there and He's decreeing, right? He's saying His decree, right? So the angels, they go up and they try to listen, right? And Allah says in the Quran, and we have certainly beautified the nearest heaven with stars, and we have made from them what is thrown at the devils, and we have prepared for them the punishment of the blaze. This is chapter 67, verse 5. I went into this in more detail in my jinns video, which is one of the first videos I made. I won't get into it too much, but just imagine, again, the natural things that we see in the sky, which we know are like burning rocks of fire. Comets are basically pieces of ice with melting water that's going behind them. Those are shooting devils? Are devils astronauts flying around in space? I never saw any devils on the International Space Station. Maybe we need to go a little bit further away from Earth, we'll see those devils. Where's the devils? Okay, lastly, if all of these scientific examples are not enough of how the Quran and the Sunnah do not represent reality that we know, that is true, what about superstitions like magic that are in the Quran? The companions asked him, where does the magic come from? And the answer is actually mentioned in the Quran. And this is in Surah Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 102. And they followed instead what the devils had recited during the reign of Solomon. It was not Solomon who disbelieved, but the devils disbelieved, teaching people magic and that which was revealed to the two angels at Babylon, Harut and Marut. But the two angels do not teach anyone except they say, we are a trial, so do not disbelieve by practicing magic. And yet they learn from them that which causes separation between a man and a wife. But they do not harm anyone through it except the permission of Allah. But the children of Israel, again, Bani Israel again, certainly knew that whoever purchased the magic would not have in the hereafter any share. And wretched is that for which they sold themselves if they only knew that. This is chapter 2, verse 102. Again, I'm going to end here. The Quran is saying that magic is real, that Bani Israel bought the magic that the angels taught them. So Allah allowed them to learn magic. And the magic can harm husband and wife. Take a little doll, poke it, put some needles in it, say, Abdullah Samir, hoji buji 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 buji, hoji buji buji buji. You will break up with your wife, hoji buji 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 buji. Boom. Come home, my wife's angry at me. She's like, what's going on with you? And I'm like, what happened? We were so happy yesterday. And I'm like, oh, it's the magic. Done, magic spells. Allah letting all these magic spells on me. What do I do? Gotta seek refuge with Allah, the same person who let the magic happen in the first place. Hoji buji buji. So, I think the time for hoji buji is gone now. We live in a world where we know there's no such thing as magic. We know there's no such thing as jinns. At least some of us. Take care. Bye.